Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and we're joined once again by Mark Gonzales over at First National Bullion. And the Fed is making some interesting statements as of recent. We have this out of Breitbart.com. It says Fed shock. Fed officials forecast higher rates and higher inflation. Now, it looks to anyone that has a few brain cells to rub together that we are going into a recession. But it's in what way are we going into a recession? Exactly what's causing it. Everyone likes to debate over it. The reality is that we're walking into this thing like it's nothing and pretending that nothing's happening, that our money's safe in the bank, and it's just simply not. The World Bank has been making ominous forecasts around Trump's trade wars, but it's not just that. Mark and I recently did a video breaking the news of the strikes, actually, on Iran by Israel. And of course, we talked about the fact that this leads us into a major economic crisis going forward. It's going to be a huge amounts of money spent on this. And of course, a lot of lives lost, which is all the worst. But we are seeing all these things team up at the same time as we see a banking crisis occur. We talked about this last year in October. But I want to remind some of you guys, and this is out of the expose, that 63 central banks are implementing Basel III, which includes the widespread practice of bail-ins to rescue failing banks. So that means that they are just going to take your money and run. It's not insured by the FDIC. The FDIC is basically bankrupt. They claim that they guarantee the money. Good for them. Like, I'd like to see that. I'd like to see a proper audit of it. And the last time they did a proper attempted to do an audit, it showed a lot of red flags. That, and on top of the move into CBDCs overall, Natural News says CBDCs will allow police to collect, store personal data for surveillance state, IMF paper reveals. They are over the hills right now with what they are doing, and they are at this point where Trump is saying Powell is an idiot, and why doesn't Powell love me? And this is all Biden's fault. Biden wasn't actually in charge, but obviously, but it wasn't just Biden. Yes, this was happening during Biden's administration. It's happening now. It's not suddenly getting better. And with $1 trillion spent on war, that's just before the strikes. I mean, we're talking the largest military spending budget in history. The national debt just broke $37 trillion for the first time. We are witnessing, unfortunately, a complete collapse of the system. And people will say, well, Josh, you've been talking about an economic collapse for a long time. The dollar doesn't collapse overnight. It happens over years. It has been collapsing. Eventually, it gets to the end of collapsing, and then everything goes rocket speed at the last second, and everyone that isn't prepared is left in the dust. And that is why I find it so important to talk about this. So we're going to go into this with Mark right away and what the Federal Reserve is saying here. But before we do, I urge you to check that link in the description. firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/. It has to be that exact link. So it's in the description. It's easy to find. But if for whatever reason you don't see the link, make sure to go and look it up exactly as I mentioned, because you want to be able to avoid CBDCs, don't you? I think everyone out there wants to avoid that technocratic system where everyone is stuck on rations and controlled, like the World Economic Forum has been pushing for so long. This is a way for you to go and buy physical gold, silver, platinum, or palladium. You could hold that gold in your hands, put it in a vault, put it in an IRA outside of the traditional IRA system, which I highly recommend. And of course, you could schedule an appointment for a free consultation with Mark Gonzales and a complimentary investors package. Just let him know in the comments of the forum that you found him at World Alternative Media, or WAM, WAM. This is very important going forward. And by the way, Mark has been awake about this stuff for a long time and has been helping people for a long time. So it's him or some guy who knows nothing about this. I urge you guys to pick him on this one. Now, let's get into this, Mark. Fed shock. Fed officials forecast higher rates and higher inflation. Of course, Jerome Powell is saying that the federal funds target is held at 4.25 to 4.50%, and it's level since the December rate cut. But the accompanying economic predictions revealed rising concern that inflation is not receding fast enough, and that rates may need to stay elevated to keep it in check. And he's expecting that we will actually see a somewhat of a boom in inflation and a move into a recession. It's a big thing for the Federal Reserve to admit, because usually they won't acknowledge these things. Janet Yellen famously said a few years ago that when she was head of the Fed, that she does not see a recession in her lifetime. Now, how old is she going to get? Because from what I'm seeing, unless she has some medical crisis anytime soon, we are walking into that recession. And furthermore, we never left the last one. It's just been papered over. Mark, what do you think about this statement from Jerome Powell over at the Federal Reserve?
Well, he's telling us we're going to have a recession. He's telling us that we're going to see higher inflation. And they're not going to be coming to the rescue. And as far as not coming out the last recession, yeah, in fact, you could even argue the fact that we're in a depression, because the terminology for depression is actually depressed growth, and we've been having and witnessing depressed growth for the last 2+ decades. I don't really see that changing, but this comes at a time that all these pieces are coming together to usher us into that digital currency. It started back in February with the tariffs, and China bad, but again, that's the role of the dominant currency, or the world reserve currency. And now you have Powell explicitly saying that they're not looking to lower rates, and in fact, they're reducing their forecast of future rate cuts. So the scary thing to me is the dollar has been losing ground in abundance of circulation, even though it is the most liquid market still. And that's why you're having the stability in the dollar in light of what's going on in Iran and what's going on in the world, because it is still a liquidity measure. But let's not forget that over the last decade, we've gone from about 70% dollar circulated abundance on reserves to downward in the mid-low 50s. Keep in mind that China is starting to take hold of world currency circulation with the Chinese yuan, now that they have a backing with gold and they're building vaults in it. But they also hold $2 trillion in dollar reserves. So it's going to be real interesting on when they start dumping and other countries start dumping, because that is going to be the case. And when that happens, you're going to see inflation surge like nobody's business at a time of low unemployment, at a time of the higher interest rates. So you're not going to be able to borrow Peter to pay Paul. And as far as Yellen talking about not seeing a recession, man, that bird is crazy. Because the expansion and contraction of the monetary system is a business model of about every 8 to 10 years, where the spigot is turned up, the fire hose is turned up, lower interest rates, whatever the case. And sometimes you need a combination of both. And we're starting to see the coming to the end of that, which a lot of people just on an investment standpoint, or just a live your life standpoint, they have not been faced with this reality for decades.
Well, and Mark, I want to add to something here, because you mentioned employment and everything on top of this. I want to point out, going into war, there's going to be a lot of jobs that no one's going to be able to have, and it's a perfect time to bring in AI. And that's a horrible thing to even think of, because that involves people going overseas and fighting a war. And we're talking about a crazy war on all fronts, as we see power shift from the west to the east. China and Russia have already acknowledged that they're on Iran's side. And then you have Pakistan, UAE, Saudi Arabia also saying they're on Iran's side. And then you have, of course, Britain, France, Germany, and NATO countries, essentially, and the United States and Canada saying they're on Israel's side. And it's like, when we see something like that happening, we're going to see a war, most likely. And we're seeing the strikes happen, and we see this shift right now, and the talk about using tactical nukes on nuclear sites in Iran. Absolute insanity. But with that, you have a lot more of people not in jobs or overseas. What happened in World War I and World War II? We saw more automation from that, but now also we see the call for all jobs to be taken over by AI. That's a perfect litmus test to bring in AI to just take over all people's jobs. We have a massive push by the Trump administration for AI, $500 billion. And of course, his recent meetings in Saudi Arabia with Alex Karp of Palantir, and of course, Sam Altman of OpenAI, and Larry Fink of BlackRock, to bring this in while Larry Fink tries to take over the supply chain on top of the housing market. Okay, we have all of that. And we have Elon Musk saying, don't worry about it. AI will take over all jobs, but you can get UBI. Okay, then everyone ends up on universal basic income. And guess what? Everyone is a slave to that digital system. Everyone's a slave to that CBDC system, which they're coming in with right now. We have the Stable Act. We have the Genius Act. We have CBDCs coming in the European Union by October at the latest, they say. We have them being pushed for December for the major trial in the UK. We have, of course, Elon Musk releasing his X money. We have all this stuff happening simultaneously as a banking crisis and unemployment and the push for a recession. So, I mean, Mark, the combination of all these things, it looks to me like it's a very big entryway and a great opportunity for the technocrats to bring in that digital system that once you're in, it's pretty difficult to get out of.
It's going to be almost impossible to get out of, even with precious metals. And I think precious metals is one thing that's going to help people survive and thrive coming through the other end, because there's not an instance in past history of a currency revaluation or a currency collapse, even if it's not the dominant currency, where the collapsed rate gold and silver actually outperformed. So you, not only do you survive, but you thrive. And this is to push everything. So look at the connecting dots, the AI replacement of government, the universal basic income. I talked about how Doge is an accounting because you're about ready to bankrupt the system. There are patents actually that connect human activity to all cellular devices and the Internet of Things, where you're going to have a difficult time accomplishing anything if you're not complicit based upon that digital wallet, even via your location. So I've said this before, and I would just really try to encourage everybody that, if you don't have your financial house in order, now is the perfect time to start evaluating this, to find out what I can possibly do for you in actual physical gold and silver, the actual money that the currency known as the dollar is pricing. Because once that dollar pricing goes and we go into a digital system, you're going to see the stuff reset to much, much higher levels. But, at some point, decisions are made for us.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's going to be really a whole lot of time. Do we know the exact date? No, we don't. But digital currency with the Genius Act is said to be happening this year. The article with the expose that you pulled up, let's keep in mind. So per Basel III, the bail-ins, or the conversion of your debt you've given the bank to equity of the institution at a restriction for sale to recapitalize the banking system, it is the de facto resolve or resolute function to keep this stuff propped up. So you're not going to get TARP. You're not going to get the bail-ins from treasuries. You'll still have back deals where the government's going to print money to hook up their buddies. But as far as the recapitalization, this is the greatest transfer of wealth, and you're either on the right side of the trade or you're stuck in the system forever.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And, we have, people will always say, oh, well, it's fear mongering. We are talking about something that is legitimately happening. It's happening before our eyes. None of you out there have missed the inflation on the shelves at the grocery store. If you go grocery shopping, it's very blatantly obvious. We know what that leads to. All fiat currencies eventually revert to zero. They always have, they always will, going back to 1024 AD. In China under the Sung Dynasty. We have seen this happen time and time again, not to mention the other forms of interest-based debt collection going back to ancient Rome and the Diocletian's edicts. I mean, that brought down the Roman Empire, by the way. What we're dealing with is an emergency situation. And, a lot of people will say, okay, well, we have our gold guy. We are going to this person. We're going to that person. We need to understand that people that you're dealing with need to actually understand what's going on so they can work with you for your concerns. And of course, those of you out there that are watching this, I get it. I'm called crazy all the time. I'm sure you've been called it before as well, for daring to be aware of the things that are happening around you in this world. And what a crazy person. Why would they ever think? So you want to walk on eggshells when you deal with people financially around how you feel about things, or else you feel like they're going to call you crazy, or they're just not going to want your business. There's a lot of that happening in the financial sector right now when people are just trying to make money. And then there's those of us that are just trying to bring the truth to people and make sure that people have real world solutions. And that's what I think Mark is doing, bring people real world solutions and understanding your concerns, because those concerns are legitimate. And of course, your family's finances going forward are important because you work hard for it and then you lose all of it and end up on a ration-based system, bowing to the state and doing whatever they tell you to because you don't have access to your money, because all that was for nothing, because now the new currency is compliance. We do not want to be in that system. And that system is being rolled out. It's about what you do next so that you don't end up in that situation. And this isn't about doing some advertisement. This isn't an advertisement. Mark and I do videos all the time. I want people to actually have those solutions. I'd talk to Mark and talk about all these issues, regardless of what he works with. Right now, the reality is, here is a solution. It's right in front of you. And I urge people to go and actually look at that. Because again, we have it in the description here. It's very easy to find over at firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/ and get out of that CBDC system, get out of that digital system while you still can. You can't be it's better to be on the outside looking in than on the inside looking out. It's very hard to get out once you're inside. So again, there you could buy physical gold, silver, platinum, or palladium. Make sure to use the exact link as mentioned. It's in the description, and schedule an appointment for a free consultation with Mark and a complimentary investors package. Just let him know, once again, in the form, which is super easy to fill out. Let him know in the comments of it that you let him know that you found him at World Alternative Media, or WAM, WAM. And again, that is a great way to get prepared, because again, FDIC is not going to insure your money. The central banks are all pushing for Basel III, which means they'll just take your money out of your account and it's gone. And of course, they are rolling out CBDCs across the board. And we are witnessing a massive shift in the global supply chain, which is another issue. If you don't have food, good luck at being able to get it unless you get into that ration system. And of course, then you have when the Federal Reserve itself is saying we're walking into a recession, this is an enormously dangerous place to be because they don't usually admit to any of that because they are the ones, the procurers of information on the economy that pretend that everything is all sunshine and daisies and rainbows and have for years, while we all know that that isn't the case. So when they actually get to the point where they're saying this, admitting it, we need to get prepared. So again, that link is in the description, my friends, and Mark and I will be back with much more. There's so much happening in the world with the Iran war. We expect to see some major financial conflicts in the near future. And not just that, one of the most dangerous things that we could face is a system where everyone's against each other. Everyone's divided. The system is collapsing. All they have as so-called solutions are these digital IDs and these 15-minute cities and these biometrics and this AI and all this kind of stuff. And simultaneously, lives are being lost, sent over for another war. What are we doing at this point if we are going to sit on our hands in the middle of this? We all feel it. It's not about fear. It's about acknowledging the reality that might be negative and making positives out of it. So I urge everyone to go and do that. Any final parting words here, Mark, as we close off this video?
Just be aware of what's going on around you and pay attention to the changes on a day-to-day basis. If you need help connecting the dots, obviously fill out the information. We'll have a conversation and see what I can do for you. I've already helped a tremendous amount of your listeners, and I've been doing this for the better part of 2.5 decades. So don't take anything for granted. Don't lose a moment's time of something that you can preventatively take care of today within your means, and taking action even at the smallest to greatest levels before we're forced with this digital currency, which is coming this year. So it's only going to get tighter and tighter and tighter with the restrictions until one day you wake up and, well, markets collapse, the 401k is gone, and now you're in that digital system. That comes. It really does. And I'm not just trying to tell you this because I want you to be afraid. No, I want you to be empowered. It's taken a long time for me to get to the point of understanding that I'm at now. And I'm very humbled by it. Let's get you there too.
Yeah, I did want to mention something as we close this off here, because actually you mentioned something that I find important to bring up here, considering that they're talking about in the next 30 days, the CIA hacker warns that the U.S. will likely face massive cyber attack from Iran. Of course, a false flag. But look, this is exactly how they get you into it. And again, if that system collapses and you don't have any recourse at that point already, then good luck in your bank run when you're running on the bank. And if you can even do that because the systems are down, and if you can even access it because, hey, they say under emergency orders, we're restricting any access at this moment because we're in a time of war and we're under attack and whatever it might be, national security concerns, whatever it might be, they will use any excuse they can. And when it happens, it happens. It's not like when that gauntlet comes down, we see it coming down, but it's slow motion all the time, as we've seen for years. It's speeding up right now. When it really comes down, it's going to happen. And then it's going to go from you being able to access your money to you not being able to access your money at all anymore. So again, this isn't fear mongering. It's what they say they are going to do. This isn't in the future CBDCs are going to come out. No, this year they are like, hey, we are rolling this out in the EU. The ECB says by October at the latest. In the UK by December. We have the Stable Act in the United States. We have the push in Canada. What more does it take at this point? Anyway, we have the solutions below. We hope everyone takes it seriously, because I want to be fighting alongside you after the reset, after the fall of this Tower of Babel they're trying to build, because good will overcome evil eventually. But I want to be fighting alongside you to build a bright, beautiful new civilization. I don't want you to have to succumb to the complacency and dependence of the system that they're building around us and fencing us in on. So anyway, I really appreciate you joining us as always, Mark. And until next time, my friends, stay tuned and make sure to hit that like button, share on social media, and get it out there, because we need to actually hit the algorithm on this, because we are suppressed. Imagine that. Until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson and Mark Gonzales signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.